Hey fam, y'all saw it. I saw it. The verdict is in. So let's go ahead and talk about George Floyd and this trial and Derek Chauvin and everything that happened today. Let's get into it. Hey, what's going on, fam? It's your boy Kev. Today was a good day, kind of mixed emotions and everything like that. And so I have a little bit of time tonight before I get into study for Bible study tomorrow. So I figured I'd just jump on and kind of do just check up on everybody to see how everybody else is doing, see how I'm doing, or let y'all know how I'm doing. Today was kind of a mixed emotions today. Definitely grateful that Derek Chauvin was convicted on all of the charges. But as I kind of glanced around and everything, it was kind of weird to see the reactions of everybody and everything, because it was like we all kind of breathed a collective sigh of relief and everything. Yeah, Dominique said, I'm relieved and everything. So, I mean, I'm relieved too. And I think that kind of speaks to the overwhelming notion, I think, for most people. It was hard I don't think I've had a moment of rejoicing today where I was just like, yes, like that just, it doesn't bring George Floyd back. And then I just happened to be watching, I think it was the Daily News or something, one of the broadcasts. I was watching with my soldiers, and it was the only one that we could get with the military Wi-Fi. But we were watching it together and just anticipating and seeing what would happen. And when they finally read guilty on all the charges, like none of us in the office were just like jumping for joy or anything like that. Everybody was kind of like, because we've been talking about it all day. And just talking about how they had the whole city boarded up, the National Guard was everywhere and everything like that. And it was just a weird, it almost felt like they were bracing us for an acquittal, with the National Guard everywhere. And then the news reports were saying that the judge had already known what the verdict was and that they were waiting. I heard some reports that they were clearing people out of certain parts of the city and everything. It felt like they were bracing for us to, for an acquittal and everything. Yeah, where Ephraim comment go? Yeah. We have still a long way to go, but this one felt good. And it did feel good in a sense. But for me, there was almost an empty sigh because I think this one was the height of everything that kicked off everything last summer and everything like that. But it just, the fact that we had to wonder, I think about that for a second. Like, it was in question. A lot of people were questioning whether we were going to get a guilty verdict. I mean, we had this dude on tape the whole time. It's not like we had a piece of the video and then another, a piece of it went out. We had the entire thing filmed, with all the different angles and different stuff like that. We had the entire thing filmed. And yet we had to wonder whether they were going to find some way to justify this and say dude was in fear of his own life, in fear that he would get up, in fear of the crowd, that he died from an enlarged heart, that he died because he had drugs in his system. We've all seen these stories before. We've all seen this. We've seen this play out before, just in different ways, just with not a case that was as high profile as this. And to be honest, I thought we were going to get a conviction with Breonna Taylor's case. And the fact that we did not give me hope, in that one. And I mean, I don't know where you all stand, but even when it comes to Ahmaud Arbery, in his case, that's still, pending and everything like that. Just because George Floyd's killer was convicted today, I don't know about you, but I don't have any confidence that the two people or the guy that shot Ahmaud Arbery is going to go to jail. So, I mean, it doesn't negate all of the other things and all of the other cases that were litigated and ended up in acquittal. Yeah, I mean, today, who was it? The brothers Dante Wright, Adam Toledo, Ahmaud Arbery. There's still, as my homie Janice says, still so many other cases to go. And just because one of them was granted, justice doesn't negate the injustice that we have received at so many different other times. And for me, immediately, I guess because I was watching on a different network, just watching the scores of comments of people that were livid that he was, was found guilty. I forgot who it was. Candace Owens was on there with, and I promise you, I wouldn't even watched if I knew that it was a show or channel that leaned in the other way. But watching them jump on and try to condemn the verdict as if the verdict was wrong, and utilize all these things to justify that Derek Chauvin should have been acquitted. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, it boggled my mind trying to figure out like what is wrong in your hearts that you could look at that video and think on any other reason. I mean, 3 people were already holding him down. The man was in handcuffs. He was already subdued, and they had other cops at the scene. So they had the 3 cops that was holding him down from his legs all the way to his torso. Then they had the brother that was standing in front of Derek Chauvin. Then they had Derek Chauvin. So they had cops all over the place. There was absolutely no need to kneel on that man's neck for almost 10 minutes. There's no justifying that. I don't care what drugs he had in the system. I don't care what crimes he committed beforehand. I don't care who he hurt beforehand. He's still an image bearer of God. He still bears the image of God in him. He's still a human being. So there was nothing that would justify what Derek Chauvin did. And the fact that they would even try to, say that man should have been acquitted, that there was reasonable doubt. I really thought the prosecution laid out a really good a case. And it just, for anybody that questions whether he was guilty of this, it just, for me, I can't be connected to you. I had to delete a chaplain that was on my timeline earlier this week for talking crazy, and I cannot be associated with people that would look at that video and think that what Derek Chauvin did was justifiable. I'm sorry. I'm not finna apologize. No, I don't mean, like an apology. No, I'm just not finna deal with that. To protect my own mental health. And what I said on my status was, like, I don't have nightmares, but I have legit had moments where I can hear that good dude that was in the background, like, yo, he's not breathing. Yo, can you check his pulse? Come on. Like, I can hear that. I watched the video. I didn't watch the video a whole bunch of times, but the pleading of him and the people that were around begging this guy to get up off of his neck, and he doesn't move. He doesn't even lift up for a second to check and see if he's breathing. Once they're pleading with the guy and telling him, like, what kind of human being does that? I just don't understand. I just don't understand. So what was the other thing I want to talk about? Yeah, just the people. Oh yeah, then they had the people talking about Derek Chauvin couldn't receive a fair trial there in Minnesota. He wasn't going to get if you think that wasn't fair, he wasn't going to get a fair trial anywhere. If that's the case, it doesn't matter where you put that man in the United States of America. You're not going to find nobody that's not seen that video. You're not going to find nobody that doesn't have some type of opinion about that. Let's be realistic. So to say that he wasn't going to get a fair trial, all the while ignoring the fact that George Floyd is not even being given any kind of trial. He robbed George Floyd of any opportunity to receive a trial at all, fair or unfair. He will never get that opportunity because of what Derek Chauvin did. So I just, for you to argue that he was convicted because he couldn't get a fair trial completely misses the point of why we're here. He robbed George Floyd of the opportunity to have his day in court for whatever it was that he was being accused of. It completely misses the point. And to be honest, it just angered me at the fact that it's like you grasping for straws. You're trying to find anything to justify your sinful heart in believing that there was some or any type of justification for what Derek Chauvin did. And then there are, people, that this proves that the justice system works. Like, really? The justice system works? It worked in this case. That doesn't mean that the justice system across the board works. I watched 13th. If you're looking to educate yourself, I've always thought that the Netflix special 13th is an incredible place to start. And it talks about how I believe it is 80% of people that are in jail because of plea bargains. They do not have the financial means, the economic means to afford a lawyer. So they'll talk to these people and say, hey, you can plea bargain and get a year. So you'll have a felony on your record. So you could plea bargain and get a year. You'll be a felon, but you'll get out in a year. Or you can go to court with a court-appointed lawyer and risk getting 15 years. So if you a kid from the hood, if you someone that doesn't have access to a lawyer and they throw these two options at you, hey, you go to jail for a year, you get out, you go on with the rest of your life, or you can sit in jail for, over a year waiting on trial, then go to trial with a court-appointed lawyer who you might talk to 1 or 2 times before your case and risk going to jail for 15 years because they'll tack all of these different charges on top of you. What do? So when I realized and listened to them spitting the facts about how 80% or more of people are in jail without a conviction, but just by virtue of the fact that they plea bargain because they realize that their chances of going to court with a court-appointed lawyer who really doesn't care nothing about you is not getting paid to invest in your case or invest in your defense. That's not justice. That's not when you want to talk about a trial or a jury of your peers. I mean, come on, man. Are we really going to go there? And different things like that. So to say that this is proof that the system works is grossly inaccurate. The system worked in this particular case, but that does not mean that there are not still people behind bars that have been convicted unjustly today. That there are not people behind bars now that don't need to be, or that sentencing for the crimes that they've committed, other people have received lesser sentences for the same crimes that they've committed. And you're looking at the fruit, but not at the root. Why people are making the choices that they are making and different things like that. And but you just want to go straight to the riots and the protests and the looting and everything, but not asking yourself, why are people doing these things? Riots, Martin Luther King talked about, are the voice of the unheard. So when you're not listening to us, when we're crying out for justice, when we're saying that our schools, we have improper or not, our schools do not have proper education, that we do not have proper water in some places, proper living conditions, equal opportunity for jobs. And you put people in these particular positions, and you wonder why they turn to drugs. You wonder why they return to violence. You're just looking at the end result. You're looking at the consequence, but you don't want to talk about the root. You don't want to talk about the conditions that they're in. And people will throw at you all of this stuff about, well, you had the same opportunities. It's like, no, the opportunities are not the same there. There's 10 times the amount of wealth in white communities that there is in white families that there is in black families. So you have generational wealth that is out there, generational opportunities that is out there that was built on the backs of people of color. And we did not have those opportunities. And now you want to say, hey, I wish I could pull up that video of the woman who last summer was talking about how she used the monopoly. She used the monopoly metaphor of how, we go around the board. If you start with a 400-year head start, and then you build up your wealth, you build up your houses, you build up your hotels, and then you start 400 years later and then tell us, oh, you have the same opportunity for success as we do. It's like, no, we built your wealth. Your wealth was built on the backs of people that were brought here illegally and against their will. And now you want to tell us we have the same opportunities, but you've had all this head start, and it's amazing that people will make these uneducated, non-thought out arguments because they're really not interested in truth. They're only interested in their version of the truth. And it's frustrating when you try to educate people who are not really interested in truth. They're just interested in facts that can be manipulated. And because I can throw this statistic out there and I can manipulate these numbers, I'm not really interested in truth. I'm just interested in facts that will support a narrative that I've already come to the conclusion of. And that is extremely frustrating for a lot of people. So am I rejoicing today? Partly, maybe 20% of me is rejoicing. 80% of me is just relieved. I did not want to see an acquittal come back, obviously, because I believe that he was flat out guilty. But I didn't want to see an acquittal come back and see what would have happened as a result of this country. And yes, I believe that looting is wrong. I can't say that enough. Yes, I believe that looting is wrong. Yes, I believe that rioting is wrong. Do we even have to question that? But if you're only going to look at that, but you're not going to examine why people feel like the only way to get your attention, the only way to draw attention to how I feel. So let me make this plain. I feel so ugly on the inside that I'm going to make everything on the outside look like how I feel on the inside. For you to not have the empathy to even attempt to understand that demonstrates that we're not having the same. You're not ready to have this conversation. That's what rioting and looting is all about for most people. Yes, there are some idiots out there that will just take advantage of the situation to get a new TV. But then there are some people that just feel so devalued that they don't care about the value of their community. They don't care about these things out there. They don't care about a Walmart. They don't care about a Target. They don't care about these stores and different things like that. They feel frustrated, and it is the result of years and decades and hundreds of years of frustration of people not addressing the things that we've brought to the forefront, of not taking us seriously, of not listening to us until it's time for us to vote. Then it's the only time that you want to listen. Now you don't want to listen to us, and so now all of a sudden you want to bring in the cameras and you want to bring in the news choppers and you want to bring in all the reporters when stuff starts getting blown up. But you don't want to pay attention to the living conditions and the economic inopportunities that exist in our communities. You don't want to talk about those things, but you want to talk about the looting and the rioting. Like there's a disconnect there. And I can't take you seriously if that's your argument. I cannot take you seriously because you don't really care about the community. You don't really care about the people. You don't really care about equality. You don't really care about the value of person. You don't really care about people made in the image of God when you're making those arguments. So it's difficult and nearly impossible for me to take you seriously when you won't listen to the people who are the direct recipients of this. You won't listen to the people who are in the know, and you think that you know better than us, but you have not come up in those conditions. So it's today was just a difficult day, because as grateful as we are to see justice handed down, it's a constant reminder of the injustice that we have received so many other times. And you can't look at one instance of justice and think about the number of people that were killed, the Philando Castillos, the Trayvon Martins, and the Eric Garners, and so many other people, the Sandra Blands, that did not receive justice. You think we forget about these people because George Floyd received justice? No, these people still in our hearts. Their cases are still on our minds. And I have not forgotten about Breonna Taylor. I've not forgotten about Tatiana Jefferson. I've not forgotten about Botham Jean and all of these people whose families are still grieving just because George Floyd's family received a measure of justice today. The fight is still on. The war is still ongoing, and there's still so much work to do. So yes, we can celebrate today, and we should be grateful today, but there's still so much work to do. And today was just, for me, it was just a stark, it was just a stark reminder of that. Man, it was just, yeah. So on a positive note, it did make me think about, how I long to be with Jesus. Today, I had a phenomenal Bible study with my soldiers at my unit, and we've been going systematically through the Gospel of John, mirroring the Bible study that we're doing at the chapel that I serve at. And we got into this part in John 1:3, where it talks about that in him was life, and that light was the light of men. So Jesus is the light of the world that shines in darkness. And it's not talking about darkness in the absence of physical light, like the lights that are in this room. It's talking about moral darkness, that Jesus shines his light in moral darkness. And so I asked my soldiers, why is it important that Jesus had to leave Earth, that his physical body could not stay here on Earth? And we began to share how it was important, because if his physical body, his physical person stays on Earth, then the presence of God is only in that physical location where Jesus is. But if Jesus leaves and he sends God the Holy Spirit lives inside of us. And so now God's presence goes wherever we go. Wherever darkness is now, the light of God that shines inside of us is there to shine God's light in that darkness. And so I began to share with them how that's why God will sometimes leave us in units, leave us in sections, leave us in countries, leave us in places where darkness is. And it's challenging sometimes or it's tempting sometimes to be the person that says, I don't want to be in this darkness. Get me out of this unit. Get me out of this country. Get me out of this system. Get me out of this. But God says, no, you're the light. If I take the light out of the place where there's darkness, how can the light of Jesus Christ be shown in that? And so I challenge them to say, hey, Jesus Christ is the light of the world, but he shines inside each and every one of us. So it is absolutely essential that sometimes God leaves us in places where there is darkness so that his light has an opportunity to shine. And so in the midst of the oppression, in the midst of injustice, in the midst of unrighteousness that we see in this world, We are God's representation. We are his representatives who have the responsibility of shining God's light in the moral darkness that we see in this world today. So we still have to take up that fight. And I long for the day. There is something inside each and every one of us that is placed there by God himself, that every time we see injustice, that we know it's not right. There's something inside of us that says that, no, this does not line up with what I know God created. This is not in line with his will, in line with his word. And it doesn't sit right with us, because that is, it's an indication that, this is not the way that God designed for it to be. And it is a challenge for us to bring about change. And so I was reading Dr. Eric Mason's Woke Church about a year and a half ago. And he talks about how justification is not just God changing our legal status before him, in that we are now becoming people who are not guilty in God's presence. So justification is not just God making us right. Justification is God making us right so we can make things right in the world. Justification, it was just a beautiful concept in the way that he broke it down, in that God makes us right before him so that we as his representatives can, watch this, let your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So we have the responsibility, as we have received justification vertically, to make justification an experiential thing horizontally, so that what we have received north and south from God, we go about east and west and throughout this world, and making that same thing take place, making God's righteousness, making his will, making his way. We go about advancing God's kingdom here on the earth, so that justification is not just a concept that we have received from God, but righteousness and justice, as Psalms 89 says, are the foundation of his throne, that these things become a reality in the world that we live in now. That's what it's all about. So all of us have that responsibility. So today was it made me long to be in a place where we never have to wonder whether justice is going to be served, where we never have to wonder whether righteousness is going to spread, whether righteousness is going to prevail. I don't want to, it pains me to wonder when things like this happen, whether righteousness and whether justice is actually going to prevail. And today was just it was a difficult, it was a joyful burden. It was a joyful burden. We rejoice in that justice prevailed in this particular case, but it's burdensome to be reminded that it always has not been this way. That there are many people who died without a court case. There were many people that died without a trial, that did not ever get to see a jury of their peers. And there were many that did, that were acquitted unjustly. I remember the story of the young lady whose case really precipitated everything that popped off with O.J. Simpson. Lord help me. If somebody remembers the young lady's name, please type it in. The young lady who was killed by the Korean store owner in L.A. and was shot in the back of the head for walking, having a disagreement with the store owner. She's shot in the back of the head. And the Korean woman that murdered her received probation. I kid you not. You can look it up. And the ESPN, in their documentary of the OJ case, they did a absolutely phenomenal job of illustrating how all of that played a factor in the OJ case and in the Rodney King and everything that took place there in the Los Angeles area. But you had a Korean woman who shoots a young lady in the back of the head and gets Latasha Harlan. Thank you so much, Janice. If you look at the case of Latasha Harlan, Korean woman shoots her in the back of the head and gets probation. What kind of world do we live in where you can shoot somebody in cold blood and get probation? And people are mad about OJ. Like, that's why Los Angeles erupted at Rodney King and the verdict of those 4 officers that were acquitted. Here they are on camera, can beat a person down, but then you have an Asian woman on videotape shooting an unarmed young Black girl and gets probation. I never thought I would live in a country where I would see that. And it's today is stark reminders of people like Emmett Till, you know, and just justice has not always been served. And so we're not going to forget about that while we're rejoicing for George Floyd. So check on your people today. I'm grateful to have friends that called me, text me, checked in on me. And today I was praying and just, you know, saying, hey, I'm in that difficult position where I realized that I have soldiers of all races and colors who may have walked in. If he had been acquitted, we're going to be walking into my office seeking answers, blowing up my phone seeking answers. And I wanted to, you know, what do you say if he had been acquitted? You know, how do you answer that? And so I'm grateful that we didn't have to do that today, but I'm also mindful that it won't always be that way. Every case is not going to receive justice. And this does not remove the wounds of Breonna Taylor, whose walls got more justice than she did. It does not remove the wounds of seeing people whose hearts are so hardened that they will look at the events of today and still think that Derek Chauvin could have been acquitted, should have been acquitted. You need to be ashamed of yourself. You should absolutely be ashamed of yourself if you can watch that video and honestly believe that he was justified in what he did. It's mind blowing to me. So I'm not sure how y'all felt, but you know, talking things out is therapeutic for me. I'm always giving out advice and sharing with other people. So every now and then I just like to get on and just kind of talk things out myself. But I'm grateful. I have a great group of friends, a great Christian community around me, and people who I know love. And I got a lot to celebrate this week. My birthday is coming up in 2 days. So I'll be turning 42 in 2 days. Jackie Robinson number. I'll be turning 42 on Thursday. So looking forward to celebrating that. My father comes in tomorrow. He's coming in to celebrate you know, my promotion on Friday. So my dad comes in tomorrow. My birthday's Thursday. I get promoted to captain officially on Friday. So I got a lot to be grateful for, a lot to be thankful for. I serve in the greatest army in the world. I have the greatest job in the world, serving as an army chaplain. Absolutely love these things. And God has been so good to me. And I just didn't want today's verdict to damper that in any way. So I'm extremely grateful, extremely grateful. So thank you, Sabrina. I really appreciate you. And we gonna party Friday, man. I just God's brought me from a mighty, mighty long way. And I certainly there were many a days in my military career where I never thought some of y'all know, but there are many a days where I just never thought I would live to pin on captain. And for me, for anybody that knows me, the most important thing on my uniform will not be the captain rank. It won't be the chaplain, crest or anything like that I wear. The most important thing on my uniform is the cross. And so I don't think I will ever be as proud as the day that I was that they pinned that cross on my chest. And knowing that for the rest of my military career, I would have the opportunity to get paid, to preach the gospel, to serve soldiers, to be with them. It's the greatest job in the whole world, and I absolutely love it. So I'm grateful for it. Thank you, Sister Donna, one of my sisters there at Grace Gospel here at JBLM. Thank you. I really appreciate you. Janice, thank you, ma'am. I appreciate you. My friend of 20 plus years, definitely makes me feel old. With that being said, man, I'm gonna let y'all continue on with the rest of y'all day. I pray everybody is doing all right, and everything like that, and that you all have a blessed and prosperous end of your day as well. All right, so let me get up out of here and get ready to just do some study so I can get ready for Bible study tomorrow, and we will check in on y'all soon. All right, family, I love y'all, and we'll talk with y'all soon. Bless you.